attend. So first of all, happy Easter to everyone who's celebrating. And thank you for finding the time to join us here on a Sunday. I suspect you had probably other things to do, but glad to see you all. As I was sending out the reminder about the webinar, I noticed we have a total of 418 students working on the Linguado challenge. So that's close to 100 teams, something like 90 teams or so. That's actually quite a lot. So I didn't realize that Linguado was apparently one of the more popular companies. And so we did receive quite a few questions from time to time by email. And so my assistant was trying to answer them to the best of her ability using the information already provided by the company, so we don't have to bother them each time. But following the popular request to have a second webinar, we invited the company and they agreed graciously to spend their time and provide that opportunity to the students. Now, again, I'm not sure if all or how many will be able to join here today live, but importantly, the goal for today's webinar is not to listen to the second presentation by the company, but rather give you, the students, a chance to maybe share what you've already done and get some feedback. Or if you have any questions that you ran into, again, your opportunity to ask those questions and get the answers. And so maybe just as a very brief sort of refresher. So if Steph and Alexandra, if you want to maybe say a couple of words in general before we go to the Q&A, but not a formal presentation, rather just, I don't know, any maybe perhaps questions that you've seen in the last few weeks that have been particularly frequent maybe, or any other developments that we need to know since our last webinar.
Steph, you can start.
Yeah. Well, I've received some emails regarding the content creation. So I kind of created content with the students and they showed great creativity. And I really hope we'll stay in touch. As for our progress as a company, we're doing good progress with developing games and our new design. So we're mostly focused on that and adding a few more features to our current design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so hey Vas, and hey everyone who's here. Thank you for having us today. Happy Easter to everyone. Happy Passover or Ramadan, or whatever it is that you're celebrating around the world. And that's right. That's kind of the Linguado vibe, is that we preach tolerance. All passports are welcome on our platform, and we're very happy to have such involvement from students like you. I'm looking at you, Luca, Zakaria, and I don't know who else is on here, but essentially, Vas, we are, as Steph said, working on a new design to really make the app much more educational, right? We don't want this app to be looked at as an international dating app. And we know that sometimes that can be kind of the feedback that users feel, also depending on how users communicate. So I think it would be helpful, Steph, to mention some of the features that we are adding to the app to make it much more educationally focused. And sorry, is it Vas or Vas?
Either way is fine. So full name Ukrainian is Vasil. So I guess it should be more like Vas, but doesn't really matter. Thank you so much for asking, though. Most people, international names are always difficult. So, but yeah, I can tell that you have enough international experience to know that these things are sometimes a little, require additional attention. So thank you for asking.
No worries. Do you mind if I just mention quickly some of the features that we are adding?
Yes, please do. Yes.
Okay, so and before I do, by the way, I just want to say, kind of, at least from my perspective, what I would really like from this kind of relationship that we're building with the X Culture community is, again, we're a startup. A lot of you guys are doing this to get involved and understand what the life cycle of a startup, how it works, how to take a company from in the accelerator, they always say from launch to exit, right? The whole idea in creating a company is to eventually exit from it. And yeah, I mean,
can I ask you about that? So I'm just curious for myself. So as an entrepreneur and the company founder, so is your plan to exit at some point, or you're not thinking? So basically, are you doing it so that one day you can sell it for $1 billion and retire, or start something new, or go on with some social projects and stuff like that? Or at this time, it's still a goal, you like the process, you don't necessarily think where it will lead you? Like, so do you have a clear exit strategy, or at least some goals and expectations, or it's not?
Well, there's a few exit strategies, and obviously, the reason I was going this direction is because when I do have communication with students, I want them to understand, like, we're backed by 20 investors. We're going to go for another round of funding probably late this summer. Before I started down that journey, I didn't know how rounds of funding worked. I didn't know how to raise capital, all these things. So I'm somebody, I'm a founder where I've been learning as I go. But to answer your question, for me, my goals have already been met intrinsically, holistically. People are thankful for having this application. It's served its purpose on an emotional, from like an emotional standpoint. It's very meaningful for certain users to have that ability to connect with Westerners and people from all over the world. So for me, it's already served that purpose. So from the business standpoint, after you invest a certain amount of capital, and I've personally invested a few $100,000 of my own money into the project, you need to see a return, right? And my investors want to see a return. So there's three ways that we connect. There's three ways that we get returns. It's really, if we do become profitable at some point, or we're earning a great deal of revenue, you can maybe offer some quarterly returns to your investors. A. B, if the company were to go public, right, and you see LING on the New York Stock Exchange, like Duolingo went public, I think in early 2021, last year during the pandemic. If we go public and it becomes a publicly traded company, then of course anyone can invest in the company. And then 3, of course, if we get bought, right? And I think from my standpoint, that would be the goal. I would love to see us get bought by a bigger company like a Duolingo. I don't want to necessarily be working on this forever at the rate that I'm currently doing it, because quite frankly, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's not an easy thing to build a company of this magnitude, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, so if it's okay, we'll talk a little bit about the direction.
Go ahead, please.
What we're doing with the product and where things are headed. So I mean, yeah, our new design, it's going to be, as I said, much more educational, where you'll have the ability to correct other users on the app. We're going to add a transcription feature. We're adding groups. We want to make it so that users never have a reason to leave the application. We have many teachers that come to the platform to look for students to monetize their personal businesses. So, that's very good proof of concept for one of our future monetization models. We call it MYT, which is the monetize your tongue model, where you, Luca, or anyone else on the platform can come to, maybe you can charge another user to have a conversation in French. You can charge them to do a translation from French to English.
That's a very, very interesting idea. This is an extremely interesting idea.
Yeah, so it's kind of, we're going in the direction, and this is going to happen this year. This maybe wouldn't happen until, if I had to guess, I would say late Q3 or 4 of next year, because what we are, but the whole idea is to kind of become, like, what I tell people now is, right now, maybe we're the Tinder for language and cultural exchange. What we will become is the Airbnb of the language world, where it's a peer-to-peer marketplace where people on the platform can teach, tutor, interpret, translate, transcribe, and sell language services in an open format to other users. And we would take a percentage of each of those transactions from the buyer and from the seller, exactly the same business model as Airbnb, we're cutting out the middleman, right? We're not, we're cutting out the broker.
So can I ask you to clarify, because this is an extremely interesting idea that you brought up. So in your mind, the idea will be, it will be some sort of a payment per hour or per minute or whichever other unit of time you take, or will it be more like a Netflix model where you subscribe, you pay like a fixed monthly fee, but then you have access to a pool of people who are like essentially like a pool of movies, and then you can use them almost unlimited or in whichever way, or some other form of collaboration? Like,
No, I think
which
it
one
has
do
to.
you-
I think it has to be the former because, Steph's Serbian class may cost $20, where Luca's Serbian class may cost $100, right?
Yeah.
So if the amount of the transaction is more, of course, we want to accept the higher percentage. So I think it would be per person, per transaction, per service, let's say. But it is important to also discuss how those transactions will be done. We are moving in the direction of crypto, let's say. We do want to tokenize the application. We have the Linar, which is the Linguado dinar.
So you have your own cryptocurrency?
We're looking to develop it. So for two reasons, because, well, there's a lot of reasons behind it, but we could raise funds solely on the thesis of just launching a coin, and people could invest in Linguado and buy this coin by not investing in Linguado, but by just buying the coin, and that money could be used in some ways to help fund the business. We could do so. There's two kinds of investors out there, right? There's the investor that may just want to buy the currency because, forgive me for saying this, but people invest in these shit coins.
But that's the point. Yeah, had you done it a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it seems like some random people came up with some random coin and raised like $10 million in 2 days, even though nobody really knew what that coin is. By now, the market is a little bit more saturated, but still, I think that's a brilliant idea if you can do that.
Well, we have a very solid white paper. We have use case and foundation for doing it, because we're also going to gamify the app. And what I mean by that is Duolingo, for example, right, has no social aspect. So because we are a, let's say, social version of Duolingo, we look to also build games, but in a multiplayer format, so that if me, Vas, Steph, and Luca all want to learn French, we can compete against each other in a gamified way. And so one thing, by the way, Steph doesn't even know, and I'll tell you, Vas, is I think, and these are some of the hurdles you go through as a founder, or just any manager of a company. You have to realize the talent pool that you have, and say, hey, what can we build? What do we want to build, right? And so sometimes at this stage, because we only raised $1 million in funding for our, let's say, pre-seed round, that we can't always build for innovation. Sometimes we have to build for simplicity, which I don't like, but you have to choose your battles if you want to get first to market with some stuff. So I understand that. I think that for us, our current team cannot build the kind of games that we want to build, especially because they're so hyper focused on putting out this new version, which again will have groups, it'll have classrooms where our moderators will moderate the classroom, so that if you, let's say you're from Egypt, no one wants to talk to you, you can jump in an English classroom, and every week there will be different topics. So these classrooms are called tribes, and every week we'll have different missions. So, it'll be 1 week it'll be, TV shows, next week could be football, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason I mentioned this is because we may be working with a Ukrainian dev shop actually in the coming, in the very near future, because they're pros. This is what they do. They make, kick-ass games. And sometimes it's like, do you want to reinvent the wheel? Do you want to recreate something that may be a hard build, or deliver it to somebody else who does this and only this? So It's also maybe a good step in the right direction because we will have to reshore or expand our tech outside of our current team that's just in Serbia. You know, we can't have it just there. I'm here in Miami right now, and tech is absolutely exploded. The kind of ideas and innovation you see here, I'm not seeing in so many places outside of the US right now. It exists, right? It's going to be different, but I mean, I think you understand that, like, you might understand as a foreigner, as let's say an immigrant who lives here, you live in North Carolina right now, right, Voss?
Yes, yes, I'm in North Carolina. That's correct.
I mean, some of the stuff that we have exposure to in the US isn't necessarily accessible in other parts of the world. So, you know, that kind of innovation, not to say that other parts of the world don't have extreme innovation in certain areas, absolutely they do, but the whole metaverse, right, and this whole the direction with Web3 and crypto and all this stuff, I wouldn't say it's like we're like behind the 8 ball on it. I think the timing, it's such a frothy market right now and will continue to be. So I think the timing is right, and we have, you know, a platform that really can cultivate a currency for gaming and for payments. I mean, right now here in Miami, it's all city employees can receive their salaries in crypto and Bitcoin if they want, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even does the coin serve any purpose other than sorry, I was just reading his question. I don't know if you want me to take any questions now, but
Yes, so I actually do have a few questions that were sent to me by email.
sure.
Likewise, we do have now drafts from quite a few companies. So tomorrow, I mean, today, the end of the day is the deadline for the teams to submit a full draft. It's not a final report. They still have 1 week to finish it, but they can submit the full draft. And I selected a few that I think are kind of most representative. So I wanted to share my screen and show you some of the things that teams have already done and get your initial feedback. And I suspect some of the things I will show you are representative of the general cohort submissions. And so whatever criticism perhaps, or maybe praise you will have for these few teams that I selected will apply to other teams. Hopefully that would be useful. We have a few students here who joined us live. Obviously they would have the priority to share their thoughts. So, and maybe let's do it in that way. So if that's okay with you. So Zachariah, Luca, Tiffany, do you guys want to share what you have and get some feedback, or do you have specific questions before I get into my prepared stuff? I don't know, Luca, we can see you. So, and Zachariah here. So do you guys want to ask your things or share what you have and maybe get some initial feedback?
I guess the only doubt that I had.
All right, Luca, you go ahead and then Zachariah.
Fine. I guess the two questions that I have is that ones that are in the chat. Does the company coin made serve any purpose than investing in the company, or you're thinking in something like crypto?
No, it would be an actual coin that converts to fiat. Fiat being dollars, yen, euro, etc. We want it to have real value. And I think by having this marketplace on our platform, it will serve real value where users can actually use the currency to pay for services on the platform or even buy in-app purchases. I mean, right now we are live with our pro version of the application, our premium version, in now 20 countries. So users can, for example, if the coin was live right now, they could use it to buy the pro version, shut off ads because we do have ads on the platform in 20 countries. To have more link requests, get more connections around the world. You can get live in-app support to speak directly with a person like Steph, et cetera, et cetera. So no, it would have a real purpose. It would have a real value. It's like the US dollar, for example. That's the idea. I think we're very, I wouldn't say we're far away from it, but we're not necessarily close to it. We're very focused right now on putting ourselves in a position to get this new version to market right around the time or before the time we start raising funds for our next round. So That's the other thing, Luca, is when you, even sometimes when certain things are ready, is it the right time to launch them? You have to think about business strategy too. So, you know, the answer to your question is yes, it would have real value. I mean, it's not just going to be there as like a, you know, like points or something. It would be a real coin, like any real currency. And one thing I just wanted to say, like I was going to say at the beginning of the call, the reason I'm here for you guys to educate, to answer any questions you have. But what I'd really like in return, and I know Steph is working with you on certain tasks, so we want you guys to be cheerleaders for Linguado. You're all in universities and schools. We want you to market the living heck out of our platform so that we continue to grow. It costs money for us to spend on ads. And when we're still in this kind of like bootstrapping stage, and by what I mean by that is like without the ability to spend tons of money, we have to grow organically as much as possible. Thankfully, our organic growth rate is roughly 60-40, 60 organic, 40 paid. And we're onboarding roughly 15 to 20,000 users per week with about, $2,000 to $3,500 per week spent. So our return has been pretty good through our ads. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but here to answer more questions if anyone else has them, or you, Buzz.
Yeah, I'll get to my question. Zachary, you had also a question?
Yeah, can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you, yes. Where are
Yeah.
you? Can you give us just quick background so we know where you are, what team you are?
Yeah, so I'm Zachary. I'm international student here at USA. I'm from Youngstown State, Ohio. And yeah, we were working on the Linguado team, and I'm business finance major. So I was working with my professor. He's an international business professor too, regarding this project.
What
So
university are you at?
Youngstown State University.
It's in Ohio.
Ohio, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So just to say, like, we were doing some project work and did a lot of surveys in our university, and the group members we had from different countries, they also did some surveys in different countries. So like some of the responses we got was like not a lot of people really knew about Linguado, because they knew the other apps like Duolingo and some other stuff. But I mean, the ones we surveyed after, the ones who knew after, like they got used to Linguado, like they really liked it. I mean, but their responses were again like you were saying, Alex, that it's like more a social app, and we are trying to make it more social. So like the feel of Airbnb and stuff like you say getting educational topics there and groups. So it was also a nice strategy. So I was thinking like, can you think like how it will affect the consumer needs in different countries you are targeting? Like you were talking about opening a market in China, and that's what we were trying to write in our report too. But I was wondering, like, do you have any specific features to add regarding different countries or different markets? Because like a lot of countries, like, they prefer different things, over that thing. Like, is there anything common you want to add, or that like
specific for certain countries?
Yeah.
I mean, I think in general, the thesis is to have the same platform in every country that has access to the app. And I say that because there are some countries, like obviously we're not in North Korea, but there are right now, there are some countries that we don't allow to use the app because of scams and bad actors. Unfortunately, because I'm sure there's tons of good people that would use it for good purposes. In Nigeria, for example, because we're small, we don't have a huge support team at this stage. We had to block Nigeria from using the app and one other African country just from scams and stuff. But But to answer your question, I don't know. That's why we always do user testing when we launch features. We see how things respond. Maybe in Brazil, for example, maybe in Brazil, this is going to be very language focused, right? And then in Egypt, it's more for dating, and so then we can, the most common word in tech you'll hear all the time is pivot. Maybe we pivot and we can offer a version in the future where it's Linguado dating, or it's Linguado for education. You're not going to know until you see how users act. And that's why we have our moderators. That's why we have students like you to share that feedback with us. We're a very data-driven company. The numbers don't lie, but they don't always tell the whole story. So people are so concerned about the quantitative data, but for me, the qualitative data is just important. And we do a survey. In fact, we've asked now, I think it's close to 500,000 of our users why they're on the app. So the number one reason is language exchange. Number two is for culture. 3 is for travel. 4 is like social dating. 5, there's different reasons. But where is language and culture the highest? Where is dating the highest, right? So understanding the motive of your user base is super important. And depending on what we see in certain areas of the world, sure, when we have a bigger dev team, we can move quicker, we can be more agile, then maybe we'll start creating something different, like a pilot version for a different type of Linguado in Egypt, in Colombia, based on the user feedback. So time will tell. Is it Zakria? Is that how it's said?
Yeah. So
what is your ethnic background? Just curious.
I'm from Pakistan. So okay. I've been in US now 2 years. So I used to live in Houston, Texas. Then I came Ohio for university. So yeah.
Is it Urdu? It is
Urdu. I mean, it's Urdu and Hindi, it's similar. So, nice. That's also fine.
Nice. So, and Luca, what about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Brazil and...
você é brasileiro. Opa.
Sou.
Seja bem-vindo, cara.
Obrigado. Quando eu vi que o aplicativo era brasileiro, eu fiquei, muito feliz, porque eu entrei um pouco depois.
Tá. So para que vocês... we'll speak in English so other people can understand. Just I'm not Brazilian, right? I am American. Eu sou brasileiro falso. I went to Brazil for 3 months and ended up staying for 6-7 years. So I love Brazil. I do speak Portuguese. Many people think I'm Brazilian, but that's the whole thesis behind building an application like this. I'm trying to convey that language immersion is the #1 way to learn a language, because I never studied Portuguese, but because I lived there and only associated with Brazilians and avoided foreigners was how I was able to learn the language so quickly. But sorry, what city are you from in Brazil?
I'm from São Paulo.
São Paulo. Opa, ok. Seja bem-vindo. Ótimo. And we have, just curious where everyone else is from. I don't know if Tiffany and is it Aliyah care to share?
Yeah, if you guys want to share your locations and background.
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, here in the US. And I've lived in about 12 different states, I believe.
Whoa. Are
Awesome.
you one of the army kids or just?
No, my dad is a construction worker, so he works on bridges. He's a crane operator, and that's just kind of, they sent him around. I grew up in the court system with custody battles, and I would visit him when my mom primarily stayed in Oklahoma. So I was primarily raised in Oklahoma, born in Tennessee, and I've lived in Kansas, Memphis, or Tennessee, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas. I don't know.
You're a true American.
I've lived in a few different
that's
places,
very...
and
You're a
Yes,
true.
yes,
Yeah.
and I try and travel as much as I can. So I've visited, or I go as I just kind of try and travel wherever. I was supposed to go to Bali with some of my girlfriends this coming up month. We had to push that back. So we are planning on next year, but we're going to try and stamp our passport as soon as possible.
And what university are you associated with?
I'm associated with Northeastern State University. It's based in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, but I go to the Broken Arrow campus because that's closer to me.
Got it. Well, thank you for joining, Tiffany. By the way, Elvis Presley, he's a Memphis guy, right? It's not Nashville.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, we had one of the X-Culture Symposia, so it was 2019. We had it in Tennessee, in Nashville, and it was all about music. So I didn't even know that it's essentially the capital of the music industry. So Memphis to, sorry, it was not Nashville. Sorry, not Memphis, Nashville. So it seems like it's to music what Hollywood is to movies, right?
My mom was born in I was born in Memphis. My mom was born in Nashville, and then I have family in Clarksville, which is right outside of Nashville.
Well, thank you for joining today, Tiffany. Hope you get to Bali.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
So guys, if I can then maybe share a couple of drafts. Again, please keep in mind that these are drafts submitted this week. So these are not the final reports. And I wanted to show a few things that kind of caught my attention. And I would like to maybe ask for some feedback, but also maybe some advice. So like, for example, pretty much all of the reports here provide a nice review of competition. And so this one is sort of a representative list. I'll show a couple more. So to you, Alex and Steph, does this look like a good list of your competitors, or you see other companies as your competition, for example? And you would have, like in this report, they provide a very detailed review on each of them, why they think these are competitors.
I wouldn't consider Facebook or Instagram necessarily competitors, in the space, but it's awesome actually for someone to think that, to even put us, in the same, like, let's call it Venn diagram as a Facebook or Instagram. I mean, because like, again, yeah, of course with Facebook, you also do have access to the entire world.
Yeah, I think probably that's a cross-section like Rosetta Stone, that's one-way instruction. Facebook, that's the social element, and you sort of cross the two in your one single app. Yeah. Maybe that's why.
I've never heard of Drop. I don't know. I just don't know what Drops is. I haven't heard of Drops.
Yeah. So here is another list. So this is a different team. So that's team number 631. So they're listed here: Duolingo, Mondly, Babbel, Memrise, Busuu. Yeah, I don't know many of these companies. Hello Talk apparently is one of the high native. But in any case, are they at least on the right track in your opinion? I'm not going to go through each of these, but does that sound like a reasonable list to begin with?
It's fine. There are others, but it's fine. I think, Hello Talk, of course, Tandem.
Yeah. One comment from my point of view as a professor. So I like this second teams better, this one better, because it provides a little bit more details on the company, and then a more detailed comparison of how this company compares to Linguado. I think one of them, if I can find right away. So yeah, like for example, I like also this one. So this team here provides features that Linguado has that other competitors don't have, and they have a few options, and then features that other competitors have that Linguado doesn't. So it seems to me like a comparison like this would be more informative than simply listing the companies. Does that make sense to you, Alex? Or
yeah, and this is great. I mean, this is something that I can use a lot of this information as for this next round of funding that I do in my pitch deck, pitching to investors, because of course it's always a question about your competition. So this is awesome.
Another thing I noticed, most companies do provide a list of strengths and weaknesses and opportunities. Again, it seems like it's a useful thing, and I like that this company provided a nice and clean bullet list here. So again, I'm not going to judge on the merits of each of the points, but it's probably a useful thing to include. So, so I don't know. I highlighted a couple of things here again that I wanted to show. Like, for example, I really like that this company did it, and I mean, team did it, and I noticed some other teams. So they tried to talk to a bunch of universities, and they provide here a list of university person they talk to, contacts. And so in some cases, it seems like the team even implies that these people make the decisions on behalf of the university about use of apps like this for the students. And apparently there was even initial interest based on these initial inquiries. So I understand that it's probably not a bad idea to do something like this, and if so, provide such a table. Or do you think that's kind of pushing it too far? What's your take on it?
Put what pushing too far?
Meaning that, is that okay that some of the teams sort of on their own initiative talked to the administrators? And I'm not sure if these are the universities where the students go to.
Please, it's
That's okay.
absolutely.
Okay, all right. So because again, I know that sometimes maybe they don't have the proper script, and you know, maybe you plan to, or maybe you're talking to, let's say, Harvard on your own, and here a student shows up and says, "Hey, I'm working on this challenge, and I wanted to talk to you about Linguado." So hopefully that will not interfere with your whatever negotiations you may be having with some of these universities. So.
No, it's great. I mean, look, just for the sake alone, that our name is being shared.
So that's okay with you. Okay.
Is fantastic. No matter, you know when they say like what do they say, like all marketing is good marketing, or
yeah. So there is no bad publicity or something.
No bad publicity. Yeah, it's something like that. And that's not always true, but in this case, yeah, that's a perfect use case for the expression. This is awesome.
This team again, so they even have a little synopsis of whom they talked to and what they talked about. So it seems like they approached a bunch of universities. So again, hopefully that's a good thing. So they provided here emails, names, and so I hope that's
the team that created that draft.
As I said, I opened a bunch of random submissions. So here, I don't know which team this one is, but here I think it was what, team 600 and something. Let me just see. So you'll have a whole bunch of these, yeah, team 631 with people from whatever countries they have. Same thing here. So if you look, so you had team number, I don't know where the 311, these are the people. So the important thing is that you will have all of these full text reports, and you will have the names, the context. So if you want to reach out to any of these any of these team members directly and ask for clarifying questions, you will have all their information here on the title page. Some of these are drafts and they don't contain full information on the title page yet, but in most of the cases you will. So team 413, again, someone from the United States, Pakistan, Colombia, another one American, and I'm not sure why it's only 4 people. Normally there would be a 5, 6, or 7.
Vas, thank you for showing that. I'm very happy to see that they put so much effort as I was creating most of the challenge, and very happy to see that they actually did reach out to the universities, and that's amazing kind of initiative. The startup, we really appreciate that.
Well, I hope it will lead to some potential, I don't know, letters of intent or contacts. One problem that I see, and almost drives me crazy, to be honest, and again, Alexander, Steph, you say if you think, tell us if you have a different opinion, but so there will be approximately close to 100 teams working on the Linguado challenge. Each of the reports will be about 30, 35, 40 pages. So the company will get 4,000 pages of documents, like this much. There is no way they can read all of them because they're too busy. But at the same time, they will probably look at each of those, and the executive summary will be what they will read probably more attentively. And so when I'm looking at an executive summary like this one, even though it's only 1 page, but it's plain text and it's painful to read. I mean, I don't know why you guys put it in such a block of boring text. Same thing here. Why not separate it in some sort of sections, bullet lists, so I can quickly scan the key points, key recommendations, and then if I like it, I will read the whole report. Let me see. Yeah, same thing here. These are almost unreadable executive summaries. If I have to read it, I have to read every sentence, and it will be like 10 minutes just to read this 1 page. I don't know. I mean, or am I too strict here? would it be a better idea
So
to
we
maybe
need to
have
use
like a,
bullet points.
was that,
Do we
go
need
ahead,
to
please.
use bullet points in the executive summary?
I personally would prefer, you know, if I had to scan 100 executive summaries, I would like to have some maybe like, I don't know, like for example, a list of, I don't know, at least have subsection like marketing or pricing so that I can skip right to it. And maybe I would prefer some sort of a bullet list so that it's easy to see, because if it's plain text, let me see if I can show you a couple more of these. Yeah, like something like this might be a little bit more readable to me. Although again, it's still, I don't know, it's still not something that I can scan in 40 seconds. And I don't know, or am I too demanding in this case? I mean, is it okay if it looks like, you know, a block of text, like one big gigantic paragraph? What's your sort of opinion about that?
So it would be a bit more easier for the eye if it's in bullet points.
At least paragraphs like here, because I'm looking at this first one. I mean, yes, it's not long, but I mean, it's almost impossible to navigate, at least in my opinion.
It would be good to kind of divide it with some spaces into paragraphs. So just for an easier read.
Yeah, I think we don't have very strict rules for how the executive summary looks like, but always try to put yourself in the shoes of a busy company founder who has, you know, hundreds of things on his mind. You know, if you give him that many, you know, reports, it may be a little bit, you may receive more attention if you make your document easier to scan and find the important things, because I'm afraid that a busy executive may not have, and that applies not only to Linguado, obviously all companies. It may be difficult to find the time and the attention and the energy to read long plain text documents. So that's my sort of only concern. So, yeah, I'm not sure how far we want to go, you know, if we want to review each of these executive, reports, but if I may, I'll just scan through one of them just to show you what they look like in general. Maybe you have some additional suggestions that.
We'll be able, I mean, obviously we'll get a copy of this, right?
Yes, you will have the full collection, and the final reports will look much cleaner than the drafts. At this time, they only had to dump everything so that the professors see that the students are making progress. And then also to prompt students to not wait until the last day. So our hope is that by asking for a draft a week in advance, we'll sort of create that additional deadline. Students put the effort earlier on, and then they spend the last week polishing it, because otherwise they will just wait until the last day and then try to get everything done when it's too late. So I noticed also some teams that's a very typical thing. So when they get to marketing, they try to come up with marketing personas, describe them, and then provide all kinds of recommendations on how to specifically advertise to these specific types of customers. So it seems like an interesting approach. I'm not sure if you did the same when you planned your marketing strategy, but I noticed that many students use this approach. So just to give you.
Are we allowed to use graphs from the company's pitch?
I don't see a problem with that. I don't know. Why would it be not allowed? I mean, assuming that it's properly referenced and everything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it should be fine. And I also like personally, not only bullet list like it is here, but yes, more graphics makes it easier to read, you know, such as, you know, pros and cons, and, you know, clear bullet list makes it easier to read. So this one's actually not too bad. There were a few that are just plain text, like, you know, like a long plain text, like book. And so those seem to me a little bit harder, you know, to navigate. Not necessarily harder to read per se, but harder to navigate. So anyway, I don't want to take too much time here. Just wanted to show a couple of examples and go through some of those issues. Students, if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. There is one big question that I wanted to ask, but it's not necessarily related directly to the challenge, but it is a question that I want to ask of the company specifically. So Tiffany, Safa, Luca, Zakaria, any other questions you wanted to ask at this time? Then if I may, I would like to share with you a development that is.
I think Luca has a question.
Oh, go ahead, Luca, go ahead.
Will we have this document or?
Oh, no, that's what you guys submitted to us this week. So I
Oh.
just downloaded what's submitted now. So not all of the teams have submitted yet because you still have a whole day. But I just simply downloaded whatever was available this morning and then extracted the Linguado's submissions. So that's what other teams do. So if your team submitted already, I would have it as well. We will send it to professors, but also we will send it to the coaches. They will read them and provide some initial feedback in general. And I know some companies are really interested in looking at those drafts. They will be available as well. But others say, well, let me wait until the final report. I'll read the final reports. That's fine too. So we're talking about a large number of documents and not always the company representatives have the time to work with them.
Thanks.
So one development, and I'm curious, I'll share this with you, Steph and Alexandra, but I'm curious if it could be some form of either an idea for you guys, or maybe some form of partnership for Xculture and Linguado, or maybe even something that we can fully outsource to you. So here is what happened in the last few weeks since our last webinar. So you know about the war that is going on in Ukraine, right? And you know that I have the Ukrainian connection, originally born and raised in Ukraine, so left at the age of 16, but still have a very strong connection to Ukraine. And so I got inquiries from two friends almost at the same time. One I went to school with, and the other one just someone I met a little bit later, but basically my age guys who have children. And so they told me essentially the same thing. They said, due to the war, the schools are closed. The kids are primarily in the bomb shelters. They have nothing to do. Could you find someone in the United States for them to talk in English? So this way they can practice English, sort of do some school-like work in a way, but also maybe take off their minds, of the war and destruction that is going on. So it might be something that, maybe they can do instead of worrying about the things that are going on in the country. And I originally thought that I would ask my own kids to be their conversation partners, no big deal. But then the age was not necessarily right. My kid's a little bit older, and then one of them is applying to colleges now, doesn't have the time. The other one had the finals. So I thought I would, send an email to the Xculture participants, alumni, asking if anyone wants to be that conversation partner for these two kids. To my surprise, quite a few people responded. And so I had all of a sudden many more than those two families needed. So I posted on my Facebook a post saying that, hey, I have all these internationals. If any of you would like to practice English, let me know. I'll team you up with these Xculture alumni. And then again, to my surprise, a lot of people from Ukraine responded. And so before we knew it, as of about 2 weeks ago, we ended up with about 500 names, about half of them from Ukraine and about half of them from like 63 countries. Like, it's a very diverse group. And so two teenagers, one from South Africa and one from Washington, D.C., from the Xculture group, volunteered to review the applications, basically look at the names, look at the social profile, make sure that these are real people, not some, perverted adults who want to take advantage of the kids. And they literally manually now match those people using an Excel file. And they literally manually send an email saying, hey, Volodymyr, hey, John, you both wanted to have a conversation partner, here you have it. So we don't really have the resources to do it. We don't really have the expertise. We don't have an app. We literally just give them each other's email or Facebook link, and they say, connect whichever way you want. Use WhatsApp, use Facebook Messenger or something like that. And so I'm not sure for how long we will be able to manage it. It's not something we do. We don't charge for it. So it's not something that we can sort of make money on. My teenagers, the two ones who volunteered to manage it, seem to be doing a decent job. But again, they have school. They don't really have much time to do it. And so I have two questions for you guys. One, so maybe you should do something like this, because it seems like there is a huge demand. At this time, we know in Ukraine for sure, but also we got inquiries from, like, for example, South Sudan. Somebody said, hey, I want to talk to someone as well. Maybe someone wants to talk to me. So in a way, sort of building bridges, providing this social support, expressing support through words. But so maybe that's a market that you might focus on. And second, I don't know, should we maybe transfer you that list and you can maybe provide some support? I don't think they are interested in just simply kind of going to an app and taking classes. They're more interested in this social conversation, but I think your app does it as well. So what's your response to this? Because at this time, I don't really know what to do with this list in these applications.
The answer is yes, please send it to us. Definitely also want to see what you were sharing your screen with before. That looks, yes, I agree with the bullet points, but either way, great content, would love to dive into it. I think, in fact, Steph, I think actually I should change my kind of outlook about the whole Ukraine situation and just the opening up the conversation a little bit more than before. But what I'm saying is, in general, Voss, I try to refrain from getting involved in politics whatsoever on the platform,
Yep.
because there's always going to be an opposing view. There's going to be people that support Russia, right?
Yep.
We don't want to create any sort of turmoil on the platform. I mean, it's dreadful. Like we had an Israeli guy do like an ad for us. He's like, hey, I'm from Israel and I'm learning these languages on Linguado, blah, blah. And we got many people in Palestine or people anti-Israel, like leave us a 1-star review, like, oh, they support Israel. I'm like, it's just crazy. So I think it's important. You have to be very careful about how you market that. Like, I don't want to necessarily take sides ever, but we should say that you can use the platform as a voice and a way to have discussions with people all over the world, including in Ukraine, including in South Sudan, so that if you want to get real information about what's happening there, or give those people a voice, that Linguado is a safe platform to do so. So, and I think that's something that we should probably start doing, Steph, is not necessarily say, of course we support Ukraine, of course we do, but I don't want to necessarily.
I hear you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like
I totally hear you. In our case, it was specifically designed. So when I was sending that email to non-Ukrainians, I was specifically saying we have a few Ukrainians who would like to maybe, talk to you. Maybe you want to hear their story. So it was, it was deliberately designed to be sort of political in a way. But I can definitely see how that may backfire for, for a company that, like yours, for example. And then obviously all kinds of, if you don't have a very elaborate selection process in place, you may end up with people with opposing views teamed up, and then you can have all kinds of conflicts going on instead of a productive discussion. So I'm not sure, again, it opens a whole host of additional challenges that maybe I'm not necessarily, your company is equipped to deal with, or as you said, you all of a sudden can start getting negative reviews, not because the product is bad, but because people are not happy with their conversation partner. And
but you know what? It's still good. Go ahead,
But we're still a platform where whoever wants to join and connect with any human around the world can do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Ukrainian, whether it's a South Sudanian, whether it's a Russian or an American. So we're still a platform, and we would love to be a platform where, okay, the people in Ukraine, they're stressed because of the war. We're not going to market our app as like, don't stress about war, go to Linguado. No, but we are a safe platform that they can join and use it. So, I mean, from my point of view, we can say, hey, yes, you can join us, and on our platform, you can find other people. And it doesn't matter if they are refugees or they're within a war, they're just people that wants to socialize and connect with other people. So we don't put them in a basket of that they have any troubles. They're just people who want to connect with other people, and we are here for them.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. So I'm very biased here. I definitely take sides, and I definitely try to use the platform in a way to, I'm trying to help Ukraine here, but I can definitely see how businesses like yours, international, have to be careful with these things, because you're right.
I think it's how we market it. We don't have to say we support X. We can simply just say, use us as an outlet to find out what's going on.
Yeah, no, right? I definitely see a rationale in your response. But in any case, maybe I'll send you more information. As I said, at this time, it sort of happened, instead of 2 families that we wanted to match, we ended up with a list of over 500 people now. And we manage it. In fact, I can even show you, it's so rudimentary that it's almost embarrassing, but it's an Excel file. So we have people who expressed interest, we have their age, we have some social platforms, and we literally manually match them like this in an Excel file, and then manually send out emails to each of the pairs saying that, hey, you wanted to talk to someone, here is someone of your age, of your preferred gender, and yeah, go ahead. And then we also follow up every week asking them, so how's it going? Would you like someone else? Would you like to talk to more people? So my two teenagers so far seem to be doing a pretty good job managing it manually, but it's obviously not sustainable this way. And we don't have the resources to build some, a more automated platform. Plus, again, it's not exactly what we do. So therefore, maybe we can think about some form of either cooperation or outsourcing, or maybe some other form of, or at least cross advice. Maybe, maybe some of these things you can advise us on how to do it, and maybe we can outsource some things to you. And, so, but in any case, just came up something that it immediately came to my mind. Well, actually, Linguado kind of does it. So maybe we shouldn't devote our resources, but instead team up with you.
No, I think it's great. And many people do use the app just to get real news, right?
Yeah.
To find out like what's happening.
Yeah, but yeah, that's just a development. And again, it's primarily kids. And obviously, you get 20,000 a week here. We got only 500. So it's not making any difference for your bottom line. But
hey, those 500 tell another 500, tell another 500.
Yeah.
So it does.
And it's not just that. If there are kids who want to socialize and have communication with people from all around the world, we would love to provide the platform for them to do that. It's not going to better our numbers, but we want to be there for anyone who wants to socialize with anyone else from the world.
Well, the important thing is that there are some parts of this planet, like Ukraine at this time, but then before that, or still Syria and so on, where kids may not have a normal, easy access to education, may be forced to be on a run or in a bomb shelter or whatever, the circumstances. And so a platform like Linguado or even a manual match with someone from a different country may give them an opportunity to still do something like practicing English, maybe sharing their stories. For others, it may still be an opportunity to learn their stories, get more information, maybe provide some support with words and communication. So it might be also an important social cause, sort of, doing well by doing good, as they say, right? So, okay. Anything else, guys, that you want to ask or share, or so we've spent the whole hour now, so probably time to end. But any other comments?
Well, for me, I would just like to. I'd love to get a list of all the students working on the project. I'd love to get the material. You're really curious what university they're connected to, and I would love to find out which students specifically would want to help us with marketing and having us get, to really be ambassadors, like a Linguado ambassador at their university. And something I just wanted to mention to you, boss, I don't know if maybe it's inappropriate to say on the call, but I'll say it anyway. I know, you had mentioned before about like a donation to X Culture, monetary donation. Especially after today, I'm more than happy to do it. Whether we have the funds or not, happy to do it, and we'll take care of that. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. Any support would be appreciated. Don't feel obliged. So again, we are here on a mission as well, and making money is not part of it. But yes, if any help is provided, it makes it a little bit easier for us to stay on course. But I know you're a startup, and I suspect the funds are always tight in these early stages. So yeah, we had an interest in, you talked about crypto. So we had an interest in development last week. So there is this company called Salad Ventures, a great company. We've been working with them for about 3 years. They started with organizing events, but then with pandemic, the events were obviously not something that they could continue doing. So they switched into video gaming. And so now they have an army of about 20,000 people who play games for them and earn virtual goods, and then they sell those virtual goods for cryptocurrency. But about a month ago, they scored a major investment, something like $20 million into the company from a major investment company. And so all of a sudden they come back to us and they say, hey, we would like to make a donation. So we would like to give you $10,000, but it will be in crypto. So would you be able to accept crypto donation? So I had to figure out how to set up a crypto wallet. Then they made the transfer, and I still haven't figured out how to transfer the US, the US stable coin or whatever it's called.
USDC.
Yeah, USDC. So, and I need to now figure out how to convert it into regular dollars, because my accountant is torturing me and saying, no, we cannot keep it in crypto. So convert it to normal dollars, put it in our account, and then we'll show it on the books. So I'm trying to figure out now how to move that money into the real dollars. But what I mean here is that all these years they participated for free, and we found their business model interesting for students. It was a way to support to learn something new, and then unsolicited they came back when finally they started growing like crazy in the last year and finally had some resources. So that's a perfectly fine way to do it. So we are not selling our services in a traditional sense. So if you can support us, great. If not, no big deal. We'll wait until
we will
become a unicorn, and maybe then you will. So
no, we absolutely will, and we can work something out this week if you want. So but anyway.
sounds very good. Yeah. Okay, well, so then here's what's going to happen next. So the final reports are due next Sunday. And so it will take us probably 2-3 days to download all of the reports, clean them, relabel so that it's easy to see which team submitted what, separated by folder, by company. So probably end of the next week, so 10-15 days from now, we'll send you the full collection of the reports. And it will be, it looks like, close to 100 or so total. Then about another week, maybe 2 later, we will have the report evaluations by the professors. So this way you will have the score, quality score for each of those reports. If you don't have the time to read all 100 of them, you will then maybe start with the best ones. So that's also an option. And then a little bit later after that, we normally ask the teams to provide not only the full text reports, but also the key recommendations in a separate survey. And that allows us to put it in a nice table. Like, for example, if the question is what's the most promising market, you will have a nice frequency histogram, like 80% recommend the United States, 10% recommend, I don't know, China, whatever that will be. So we'll prepare also what we call the executive analytics summary. So usually a few graduate students read those reports, look through them, and prepare like a 20-page summary of all of the ideas. So this way, if you don't have the time to read all of them, then at least you can read a 20-page summary. And then if you find any of the ideas interesting, you can click on the link and go to the full text report, look at it in more detail. And then we already have the list of all of the students who worked on the Linguado challenge. If you would like to get that list, I don't know, send a thank you or send additional questions or offer them.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we can share that with you as well. And I'm sure quite a few of them will be very interested in continuing the collaboration. So I looked at some of the reports. It seems like they already invested a lot of time. So if there is an opportunity of some sort of an internship, scholarship, job maybe, or some other partnership, I'm sure quite a few of them would be interested in that as well. And then, yeah, so I guess at that point it will conclude the semester, but then maybe you'll continue working with some of the students. And my hope is that we will repeat the partnership again in the fall. By that time, you probably will have developed further, but also having read the reports, you will know better what aspects of them are useful and which ones maybe, or which parts are not very useful. So this way we can adjust the list of tasks and questions for the fall in a way that will sort of be more utilitarian for you. And so we can then try again in the fall, and then hopefully better ideas will come at that time.
Great.
All right. Okay. Well, everyone, then happy Easter. Have a nice weekend or whatever you celebrate today. And thank you very much for all your hard work. And thank you so much, Alexandra and Steph, for finding the time to meet with us on Sunday. I know you're busy, and I truly appreciate your time and investment here.
Thank you, Russ, as well.
Valeu, Luca. Muito obrigado.
Valeu.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice Easter.
You too.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Feliz Páscoa.